we're going to mention a few other topics that we're struggling with finding experts. Maybe you know someone, maybe you are that someone. And you might want to step up and help us out. Send us an email at the email address on the screen there, attlivestream@gmail.com. Okay, what's the first one?
The first one is sentencing.
Okay, so talk to us about that. What is sentencing?
Well, okay. Well, the topic itself is how are people sentenced when they commit a crime and are found guilty and now they need to be sentenced. I've always questioned, like, I wonder, when I was in CRT, I just automatically knew white people got off, quicker than black people. But now that I've done some study and research into it and things like that, I know that much more goes into it than that.
It's complicated.
It is complicated. And I'm just wondering, how does sentencing work? And how do different states keep things just so that, the poor aren't being sentenced longer terms than the rich. And so, yeah, I'm the
variables that go into determining sentencing, and how does it vary from jurisdictions and statewide versus federal? How does all that work? If you are a person who knows about this,
or if you know somebody, maybe it's your brother-in-law,
get us connected, because the conversation about sentencing is a big discussion in the wider justice conversation, but we haven't wanted to comment on it just by reading news articles or that sort of thing. We always try to talk to a few experts before we go on the air with something and a new topic. And that's what we really need. Is we know that this is an important issue. We think that there's some important things to talk about with regard to sentencing, but we don't want to just go off the top of our heads or go off of popular level news articles. We really want to talk to some people who are experts in this issue, who are Christians, or maybe who are open to a Christian point of view, and help us understand, more about this issue. So that's one area we really need help with.
Yeah, we are definitely for justice. And so if there's the possibility of something being unjust,
right,
how do we, and we say it all the time, how do we use our voice, our vote, and our dollar to be able to speak into that area? There are definitely disparities in sentencing, for sure. That's just statistically true. We see that. But that doesn't mean that just because there's disparities that what's happening is unjust. I don't hold the position that every disparity is some kind of injustice.
Yeah.
We need to do research and make sure, that we're doing our due diligence to understand, there is a disparity here, and it's because of X, Y, and Z. The X, Y, and Z, though, doesn't have to necessarily be an injustice. It could just be the way certain people groups choose to participate within society, and that creates a disparity. I'm not of the camp, like I said, that every disparity automatically equals an injustice, but we would love to have that conversation. I would love to have that conversation personally.
We really want to know more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think along those lines, are you ready for the next one? Along those lines is bail and the cash bail system. And there's a lot of conversation right now happening regarding bail and who gets bond posted and how much. And, are you... if you commit a crime, is your crime even bail worthy at all, or are you just detained and then released?
Yeah.
We see this with the Illinois situation.
Well, there was that situation this week in North Dakota where a guy did some kind of hit and run or vehicular manslaughter with toward a young teenager who was a Republican, and he believed that this guy was calling for some kind of mob to come after him. So he ran the kid over. And then he was let out on $50,000 bail. And
which I think you only pay 10% of that.
Yeah.
So it's like $5,000.
Yeah. And so then it's like, well, how does that work exactly? How is bail determined is a big question we have. And there's so much call in the justice space for the elimination of cash bail.
Which actually I believe was started by Angela Davis way back in the day.
So we need to give a little context here because this is something that was completely new for me.
Yeah.
So Angela Davis studied with Marcuse, and he is a very famous
critical thinking,
Yeah.
critical theorist.
critical
Yeah.
theorist. And Angela Davis, you can go on YouTube and look up Angela Davis. I mean, she's got YouTube videos going back to the 70s. And one of her things was she studied under Marcuse, but she also
ran
has
for like the vice president of the Communist Party.
Yeah, she's a communist.
Yeah. She has a criminal record for sure.
She went to prison.
Yeah, and I'm not completely like solid on all that happened with
Yeah.
that, so I'm not gonna go down that road. But she does have like a huge past. Like Angela Davis, everybody should know about Angela Davis.
So one of her things, and has been from the 70s, has been the elimination of prisons. And
Defunding the police.
defunding the police. So these are not new ideas.
Yeah.
If you start doing some history, you'll understand that many of these ideas that are now being put forward as justice issues go back to people like Angela Davis and have been around for decades. And this whole, like, the elimination of cash bail. Now, explain to us why cash bail is a justice issue. Like, that was so new for me. And it was like, okay, I don't have any idea what to think about this. So help us understand that.
Well, I see it as potentially a justice issue because let's say someone gets picked up for a crime and they're completely innocent, but the judge sets their bail at $1 million. They don't have that kind of money. You pay 10% of that. What's that? $100,000. They don't have that kind of money, and now they're sitting in jail sometime for months until
Or a year or more.
or a year or more until their case comes up on the docket and it's time for them to go before the judge. So now they're just sitting there as an innocent person, just detained. But you can also have a person who commits a crime, like this guy in North Dakota commits a crime,
Admits that
he committed the crime.
Yeah.
Like
We read the police report
Yeah.
today, and he admitted it. So it's not like it's to be determined. The facts need to come forward. I read the police report. He admitted he ran the teenager down because he was a Republican and he was fearing that this young man, this 19-year-old, was calling his friends, and so he decided to run the guy over, which kind of sounds like premeditation, but I'm not
that's
an
a whole
attorney.
other story.
Yeah.
We're not going to go down that
Yeah.
road. But this person is innocent, but is guilty, but has the money to get out. So it to me, it makes me wonder, how are we treating the rich and the poor in these kind of situations? Because the poor, innocent or guilty, have to sit. And I'm not necessarily concerned with the guilty, but the innocent really have to sit and just, at times, if they have a high bail, or even if it's not a high bail and they just can't afford it, they can't get bonds, now they have to wait for a long time in order for them to get out. And I just really want to know, like, how do we do this in a way that's just, where the rich aren't able to, just here's my $10,000, here's my $100,000, and now I can go and walk around and be free and be with my family and things like that because I have the means to do that, even though I'm guilty. I think the problem with this situation, though, is that to eliminate bail or to eliminate detention is to say, well, you're guilty, and so or your crimes don't meet the highest standards, so you're just going to get to go out and be free. And what we've seen recently is people reoffending. That's the word that I'm looking for. They reoffend, and they reoffend immediately because they weren't held or detained for a good enough amount of time to be able to,
which seems like it presents its own injustice toward future victims. And then there's this whole bill that's coming up in the state of Illinois where they're going to redefine who is able to get out more quickly. And I think it's called the safety
law.
law. And it was voted on in 2020, but it's about to go into effect. And it's going to recategorize things so that you can commit
pretty significant crimes
and get out fairly easily. And this is the future. And this is the future that people like Angela Davis and other justice-oriented people in that vein are advocating for. But we haven't taken official position on the whole bail situation because we just don't know anything about it. We only know what we see in the news. We've watched some, Angela Davis videos where we're trying to understand it as best we can, but we really need help. So if you know someone who really knows about the bail issue, has given careful Christian reflective thought on the pros and cons of the cash bail system from a biblical point of view, please email us. Please tell us who they are.